Hello, my name is Karin Wedra from Germany. I'm from Munich. And today I would like to talk about the art of biographical storytelling. And at first, I would like to talk about the different things we can do with the biographical work. Everybody knows if we work in a biographical way, we can work in a therapy way. But what if we work like authors? If we watch to our life, if we have a look at our life, which characters have been seen? Our aunties, our grandmas, which adventures did we had and did we passed? And how to work with biographical stories for the stage or for, yes, how to tell. And what I would like to do with you is at the first step, I would like to tell a little story, a little biographical story of myself. It's a tiny pearl of my life. And then we all together start to remember because it's the first step with the biographical work, because it's like a highway. We sit in the car, always looking at the highway. We have to do this and that, always go further. But what if we look in the mirror? What happened in the past? All the people we've met. Just we start a little part to remember. Then we had a little step to the hero's journey, because the hero's journey is, yes, one storytelling part we can use, or it's very good to use for every kind of story and also biographical story. What happened if my customer, myself, my auntie would become a hero in my journey? We will have a look at that. And then what happened if we integrate a fantastic element in my biographical true story? Maybe it's not that true anymore, but we are storytellers. We are allowed to lie on stage. But at first, I would tell two things about biographical storytelling, which people always ask me. The first thing is, Karin, my life is so boring. I don't have to tell anything. And I always say, no, you don't have to be Spider-Man or Catwoman to tell these little nice stories in your life. And the second thing is what the people ask me, Karin, I don't want to become arrogant and talk always about me and myself. And I tell them, though, you have to say, oh, I'm so wonderful and this happened to me and I was the hero. No, you just invite the people and say, did you know what happened to me last week? And they can have a glance into your world. And if they're interested, they can listen to you and your stories. And you don't be arrogant because you invite them into your world. That's the first thing. So if you are afraid you don't have a hero's life or don't save the world till now, but we will find some nice biographical stories. And exact on that weekend, as I got these questions from my participants, I had to go to the supermarket because on this weekend I was the workshop leader of a biographical workshop. And in the morning, so you know it if you ever made a workshop, in the morning you go to the supermarket and you buy some stuff for your participants, milk and cookies and fruits and tea and coffee, all you need for a nice workshop to sit together. And on this day, I recognized they changed the plastic bags into paper bags for the environmental stuff. They talk about all this political stuff. So the whole supermarket had only paper bags. And I took all my stuff into the paper bags and folded it like this. And I went out of the supermarket, but on these days, it rains like cats and dogs. It was like whoosh. And I went some meters and the paperback opened and everything fell down into a huge puddle. It was like a sea on the street. The cookies, the fruits, all the stuff was wet, and my cookies swam on the puddle like on the sea. And I got so angry. I got so angry. Now it has to happen to me. The workshop will start in some minutes, and I go onto my knees and put all the stuff into my bags, and beside me there were two young men, and they didn't even look at me. They just talk as if nothing would happen, and I got much more angry. And then one guy just snipped away his cigarette. They turned around and went into the supermarket and left me alone. They didn't even give me a hand. They didn't even saw me. And I was so angry, my pulse was like here. And seconds later, the boss of the supermarket came out with two plastic bags, helped me to put everything and the half dry into the plastic bags. Then he took the swimming cookies, ran into the supermarket, came back and gave me the new one. And then he told me, there were just two young men. They told me that you need help. And I always tell this story because it's so easily to judge people wrong. Yes, it's a nice, just, do you see how small this story is? I didn't save the world. I just saved some cookies, okay? That's all what I did. But you can write down into the chat what happened if you listen to the biographic storytelling, even it's a so small thing of a supermarket. What happened with you if you can listen to that part of life from me? I connect with the teller. Yes. Yes, you may create imaginary the sea of rain. We'll share it. The what cookie story? We often do misjudge, yes. I remembered stories where we found help. You feel like you are part of your life. Interesting that simple daily experience can be worthy of being told as a story. Yes. It's a universal story. It can happen to all of us. Yes. And it's so simple. And if you had a look at my face, if you see it, because if I remember as I get angry, I get a little bit red into my face again. What happened with us? Because if we remember things, what happened, and we have an emotion, our brain and our body remembers that emotion, and we as artists can use this to be much more present and emotional on stage. To even see I'm a little bit red because I really got angry again of the two boys. And it's really funny. And now I have a little presentation, just a small one. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. It's not too much. Can you see that? Just thumbs up or down. Yes, it's okay. You can see it. The lady in the green clothes. Yes? Okay. What happened? Personal storytelling for the stage. It's one very nice point. Nobody knows it better than you because you made the experience. It's your life. And you are immediately emotional connected because you have experienced the situation. That's also the point. If you made an experience, or if you have an emotional situation which you aren't haven't which you haven't processed yet, don't tell it on stage because it would be too much for the audience. Maybe if you got quit last week or something like that, maybe you're so angry that it's too much for the audience. So just tell storage you have processed yet, and it's fine for you to tell it. With this biographical stories, you open yourself very much and are accessible to your listeners. It's a different if you tell a story. Maybe you tell a story. I love fairy tales. I like to tell fairy tales, but it's a different. If I tell a fairy tale, I as an artist have to think about it. Okay, how does a princess feel? How is the dragon? How aggressive is it? Or something like this. I have to imagine it and say, okay, maybe I could show it like this and to the voice like this of a dragon. But if I experienced it myself, my body will tack 100% connected again. And that's because it's so powerful stories. The, and of course, there are, yes, we match to, if we listen to it, we connect also, I think, faster to the storyteller than in a fairy tale, maybe. But let's start with the first step, how to remember. How to remember, that's a very nice, yes, very nice question. How do we remember? 1 second, I give you the next PowerPoint slide. How do we remember? Maybe we think on teachers and our school time, to our family and friends, holidays. Maybe we had mystical moments in some mountains or on a sea, or happy, surprisingly moments. We can use photo books, talking to old acquaintances, looking to old documents, social media contacts, your own phone book. Which people do I know? I give you 2 steps to remember. First, I have some questions for you. Maybe you have a memory or not. No problem. Absolutely no problem. But let's have a try. Do you have something to write? Yes, something to write. Let's start. Which book or song has touched you the most? The Secret, yes, that's in the chat. And it's super okay if you say, I can't remember myself, but my sister had a book, or my auntie, or my mom. It's just like to start to remember. Oh, the next one I really like. Which stories were always told in your family? If you remember, if you sit on the table at the dinner time or lunchtime. Oh, this one is cool. Yes. The first time you got into a fight. That's the small secret out of our lives. You don't have to tell it today, but maybe for another story. What happened to you? I'm a lady, I don't fight. Yes. Um, Maybe you know it. What were your parents' and grandparents' professions? I see it on the faces. Everybody has to, oh, what was it? Educationists. Well, the next is the first time you really had to lie. When I lost my pencil at school, yes, the dog eat it. Yes. This is one I really love because it warms our heart. Your favorite food as a child and as a teenager. Mom stuffed cabbage, yes. Everything cooked by my mom. Yes, nobody can do it better than the mommy. I'm with you. Mashed potatoes my mom made into mountain volcano. Wow. With melted butter at the lava. That's a story. Great. And the last one. A gift you'll never forget. It can be nice or worse, even. You don't forget it. So these are just some questions, some biographical questions. And there's a lot of these questions, but I would like to ask you, what's going on in your brain? What happened till now? Just write it into the chat if you want. But I'm very interested. Fond memories. Really brings back memories, yes. A lot of memories pop up. Childhood, long forgotten memories came to the surface. Yes, a smile throughout. Maybe it's a little bit heartwarming, but that's remembering moments. A lot of pictures. Appreciation of people that mattered in my life. Yes, some mix of clarity and richness with some sadness I don't remember more. Oh, correctly. Yes, if we start to remember it's a work, maybe it needs weeks because our brain just start to remember, this granny had a friend and that friend had a pet, and then the story start. Yes. Funny, I don't remember anything bad. That's great. Can look back and be non-judgmental about events, people, or things. Cool. The first thing, tell yourself some question or ask yourself some questions. And the next is with some pictures. Maybe it also helps to remember. I gave you some pictures. The first one, it's just a candle, but maybe you remember a day where your grandma, yourself as a child, enlightened a candle. Or you had a pet. Or your grandma had a pet, which you really love or don't love. Maybe you remember at a tea time or a coffee. Maybe you remember a perfume, the smell of a perfume from your grandmother, from your auntie, from your first love, maybe. And here's a boy, and maybe you remember to the school sport. If I remember to the school boy sport, I don't smile because I got the ball always directly onto the head and it was not so much fun. But maybe you can remember to the school sport. Here I have some chicken. Maybe someone grew up on a farm. I always remember my grandma has chicken and we cook spaghetti, you know, the long noodles. And the chicken always thinks that there are long worms. And if we go give them the noodles, they go crazy, really. They go crazy. They jumped up and it was so funny. But my grandma don't like it to get hysteric chickens. Maybe you remember to the smoke of a tabak or the sea. If I remember to a sea story, I was 18 and I swam, it was Malta, I think, with some other youngsters into the sea. And then there was a little shark directly in front of me, and he swam. It's a cat shark, very chilling moves, and he swam there, and it was very small. But I was so afraid and I was so scared that I just thought maybe it's just the baby shark, and the mom is waiting. And I was so scared, and I returned and go to the beach. Maybe you remember a bread or the smell of a bread, maybe the bakery in the neighborhood, some gardening, or the traveling with trains. And the point is not every memory will become a good story, but sometimes we'll find a little pearl. So I have some chat. Okay, I wish I had asked more questions. Yes. I used to feed my dad's chicken. Take some noodles. It's super. The spaghetti. The first time I visited a hen coop and saw eggs being laid at my grandmom's. They are always from the store, yes. Cycling in the hills. I see. Who had the first memories? They're popping out some memories, yes? So thumbs up, thumbs down. Yes? Okay, super. But what can we do with these memories? Even if there are no stories, but maybe we can remember some characters, like a teacher or an auntie or a sister. And if we tell stories, maybe we can use these characters and then they become more close to us. Maybe if we have a queen, and the queen, if we think about the queen, we think about our teacher. and we think, yes, maybe I give her the voice of her. And we can use all these characters yes, we, we find in our life or we met in our life and inspire us from these persons to use it as characters in our stories. Like authors work, we can do it in our stories too. Or even the nice moment if we remember if our grandma lighted a candle. It's so simple. It's so super simple. But if we have a scene in a fairy tale, if someone enlightens a candle and we remember to our grandma, our voice will get more soft. We will see it in our, yes, in our inner eye. We will remember, and we can use these emotions on the stage. Do you have a question till now? Let's have a stop here and just raise your hand and have some questions. We're just at the first stop to remember. Heike, yes.
Sorry, but I didn't get the last part. I because I was writing, so I could choose to use the people in my memory como as a kind of character. And
Yes.
what did you say after this? I didn't get it. Sorry.
Yes, if maybe it's just an example, if you remember your grandma lighted a candle and you have very soft feelings, if you remember that, to that memory, a very soft feeling, and you took that memory into a scene, into your fairy tale, for example, and then your voice gets softer. Your body gets more softer too. So you can use this emotion from your own memories to the stage. Make it sense to you if what I say? Yes? Okay. Some other questions. Okay. Just some things to remember, the verb to remember. Maybe you have a sealer with old boxes inside, you have some photo books, you have a family. Just open the boxes in the sealer and look what's inside. All this old stuff you have from life. Or call your sister or your brother and talk with them. Take old photo books and then you start to remember. And I can say just take a little book and make notes for the next weeks, and you will fill it part by part. And it's so interesting because all the people comes to life again, the characters, maybe the little fights you had or the way they made solutions. Yes. And that's really, it's a nice work also, and you can use it for your characters and all the scenes on stage, even if it's not a really story. But let us go a little bit further. How to use the hero's journey. I like this little girl. She feels like Superman and has so much power. The hero's journey is one way of a lot of other ways to tell a story. It's a kind of structure, and just to remember, I shortened it very, very hard into 5 steps. But most of the time it works, and I hope this time too, because if we have a hero's journey, You have a hero. The story starts where you meet the hero, the place, and the time, just to begin the story. Then you will get a problem or a very big desire. The hero fails one or more times. Then you get help, and then you have a happy ending. That's the typical story from the hero's journey. But it's just one structure of a lot of other structures. So the very base form of this hero's journey, maybe you think about the James Bond. James Bond, it starts, it's a peaceful scene. You will see the hero, it's James Bond, it's a place, normally a luxurious apartment or a bounty island. And you see the time because you have modern stuff there like mobile phones. And then normally the queen rings or the president rings and he says, James, you have to save the world. It's always the same. Yes, it's always the same. And then you have 1.5 hours where James Bond fails. And he gets always closer and closer and closer. But then it just works. The happy ending just works when he gets help from his computer team or Mr. Q. It's always the same structure. And it works so good that the hero's journey we can also use for us. So I picked out a little story where I did exactly the same. It's a hero journey of myself. And it's also not a big hero journey. No, I don't save the world normally in my life. But I had a little wish. And I think this little wish, I make it come true. And I will tell you the story with this hero structure, and maybe you will see it directly. It was in the year 2017, and I sat in my office and I read an article about the moth. Maybe you know the moth, it's a storytelling event in New York. And I was impressed. And the article told me it is state of the art and every storyteller has to be there. And yes, I decided I will go to New York and would be a participant at the moth, just to watch them, to tell stories. Then I saved all my money. I bought a ticket to New York, and then I got to the website. I visited the website of the moth, and I tried to buy a ticket, but it wasn't possible. I wrote them an email. Nobody answered. Some weeks later, I didn't got a ticket till now, but my flight went to New York. I booked it for 3 weeks. It was a very nice journey. It was a little adventure because I'm in a small city like Munich, went to New York, Manhattan. And I thought by myself, okay, if I'm in New York, I will get the ticket there. That's no problem. I wrote them emails. I visited the website again. I called them. And under us, I lied a little bit. I told them I'm a journalist from Germany and I work for the newspaper Süddeutsche. And if they don't get me a ticket. But the German people just laughing here because Süddeutsche is a very famous newspaper, but it didn't work. It didn't work. I didn't get the ticket to the moth. And so time went by. And I just had 3 days, then I have to return to Munich again. And I start to get nervous. And till that time, I didn't know that angels are also responsible for social media. But in my case, I start to pray. I had no other choice. I start to pray to the angels and I had an idea. I wrote in the Facebook channel of the New York Storytellers if someone has a ticket for me or just know where I get one. And 1 hour later, a woman answered me and says she has one ticket and she will give it me and I don't have to pay money. Whoa, I was so excited. I went on the day to the old library where the moth will start it this day, and I was there 2 hours before. I waited because I want to go inside this, and it worked. Really, I got the ticket for free. It was so nice. And I sat there, and there were really 200, 250 people, and there was a box where you can insert your name, and if you do your name inside the box, make the chance to tell a story. And I thought, okay, there's so many people. I put my name inside. They won't take my name because there's so many people. And I put it inside the box. I'm in the first row because I really want to see the moth. And then I heard the first storyteller. It was so interesting. He told us that he was able to flew from the Scientologist scene, the next one who climbed to the mountains and fell up, but he survived. And it was so interesting. And then the ninth storyteller was there. And then the last one, the moderator, took a little card and says, "Oh, interesting. Here's someone from Germany. Karin, let's go to the stage." And I was shocked. I was shocked. Then in this moment, I recognized that I didn't prepare the story. And I sat on the first row, and the microphone was 3 minutes before me. So I had three steps time to find a story. So in this case, I gave my mobile phone to the neighbor because I thought, okay, Karin, on the picture, nobody will see that I didn't prepare my story. And I gave it to them, and they made pictures. And I stood up and I said to the little man in my brain, please find a story. And the little man started to run and was looking for a story. I did the first step. The little man in my brain, find a story. I took the second step. The little man in my brain gave the story to the translator. I did the third step and I stood directly before the microphone. And the translator of my brain starts to talk with the words, please be patient with my English. I survived this 5 minutes of storytelling without preparing one, but I told the story of my grandma, and I had the feeling she stood beside me and helped me. And I got an applause, and I bought a t-shirt with the words moth, and I'm proud till now. That's also a little story of a little story. I didn't save the world. I just saved my own life. That was it, yes. And just thinking what I always do. But you see, it's a hero's journey. I had a dream, and I was the hero in the journey. I had a dream. It was no problem. I had a dream. I failed a lot of times. I had to lie. It didn't work. And then everything was so beside me. I got the ticket for free. I was able to be on stage, and I survived the story, and I got the applause, and it was so nice. And it's just a little story of my life. Now I give you, or this the next thing is, no, it's too fast. I would have one question before. Just even, what does that story do with you? I saw you're smiling. You were smiling. What happened? You can raise the hand, turn on your microphone because we're not so many people here. Yes. June Brown. Yes.
I was feeling the pressure you had. You'd spent the money on your ticket, I mean, on your trip, and you couldn't get the ticket. And you're going 3 days, you're going to leave, and then you get the ticket. So I feel, oh, thank goodness. But then when you put your name in the hat, I knew what was coming. And when you stood up, I was so embarrassed because I have nightmares sometime about being in front of a mic, but I don't have a story. And so I was feeling all these emotions while you were telling the story. I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you, thank you. Has someone a feeling or would like to say something? Yes, Michaela. Hello.
Hi. I also felt the pressure, and well, I love the story, by the way. It's amazing. And as you said, I had to laugh the first time when I heard Süddeutsche Zeitung, but it's you could yeah, you could feel all the way through actually. So like what's happening, and it's the same as you said. Okay, that your name will not be picked, so it's okay. It will certainly be picked, and it's still amazing because I would not have come up with a story. So that's really cool. Yeah.
Thank you much. Thank you very much. So it's very interesting. It seems that we're a little bit closer together, storyteller and listener, because it's biographical.
I think one of your best spots was taking the first step, taking the second step, taking the third step. That had wonderful tension in it.
Thank you. Yes. And it was really so close. I was, whoa. Okay. Okay, let's go further. Thank you very much. Let's go further. I just have a look to the time. And I just give you one more time this page. And you can see it, the steps. Maybe you can take a picture of it or you just write it down because we would like to work with it now. You get it? Took a picture or wrote it down? Yes? Perfect. So I invite you, it's just an invitation, but just try, just an idea, a kind of plot. You can tell it like a plot or an idea. There's 5 points to the question, maybe when I fulfilled myself an own dream. It could be a small one. It's just to make a good cake or something like that. Yeah. Or when I had a nice success. It could be as a child that you would like to have a toy or a car or a journey. Vashanti, do you have a question?
Um, no, just now
Okay.
when you said, um, when I saw the slide, I was thinking happy ending. Somehow, that's a nice thing to say because I always liked fairy tales when some fabulous things happen. And when I saw those, problem, desire, help, and all that, just last week, I was so hungry in the morning. I live alone and I got up very late and I just didn't feel like making breakfast and I was so hungry. And a neighbor just brought along some breakfast for me and I was so happy. That little slide, I relived that time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Just back to the work. I'm looking to the cameras. Do you have a tiny, teeny, tiny idea? Found you something? Yes. Moira is yes, said yes. Anke, what's like you? Yes. And June and Heike and Sangeeta? Yes. Little idea? Okay. This would be the time, Eric, if you could have some breakout sessions. And for that reasons, maybe all the persons who has the camera closed give us a sign with a thumb up who are with us and the other one are not in the breakout rooms. Would this be a solution, Eric? I can't hear you.
Yes, I think if people would like to go into breakout rooms, at this point, turn on your camera.
Yes, that would be very nice.
There are 21 people in the session, and only people who have their cameras on will go into breakout rooms. It'll be in groups of 2, right?
3.
You want groups of 3, okay.
Yes.
Let me get ready here.
And I will give the point of what to do. Please tell the others in the breakout session what your idea is of your personal story. And the rule is, of course, just tell what you want to tell. It don't has to be a diary feeling or something like that. Just tell what you want to tell. And the other ones listen to the storyteller in this case for 3 minutes. Everybody gets 3 minutes, 3 till 4, and that's then change that everybody's able to tell the idea of the story. Okay, is it clear? Yes? Okay, perfect. Eric, would you be so kind and put the people together with 3 persons in one group?
Yes, I've begun doing it. It's going to take about 2 minutes.
Yes, of course. And I would think 10 minutes would be enough.
Karin,
Yes.
are you suggesting or inviting us to tell just any story or more like a hero story?
I think it's okay, but if you use the hero's story, maybe it's just for 3 minutes. Maybe you can't tell a real story, but the idea of the hero's journey of yourself, if you got that idea. But if you have another memory, what you want to share, it's also okay.
Thank you.
Karin, you will not be going into a room, right?
No. I'm just waiting here, and then we have a
You're
little
not
talk.
waiting here with you. So that leaves 9 people with their cameras on, and I have them going into 3 rooms. So shall we invite them to go into their 3 rooms?
Yes.
Okay, you may get an invitation to join a room, or it may happen automatically. So here goes.
It works. Thank you very much.
So now it's just you, me, and 10 people who have their cameras turned off.
Yes.
How will we pass the time?
Perfect. Thank you very much. And
If I may something, this is,
Shraddha, did you want to say something?
yeah, I did. I've been I've been really enjoying listening into the workshop. I'm really sorry I can't participate more, but I've got some other personal stuff going on. But Karin.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
I'm afraid I can't turn my camera on, but I'm listening. I'm all ears.
That's
Karin,
great. Thank you very much.
Karin, I'm going to stop recording until people come back. Okay?
Yes.
We'll just chat informally now, but it won't be recorded. And we're going to invite them to come from their rooms. Oh, now it'll be 15 seconds. 13, 12, 11. So I think we need to remind them that it's going to be recorded now.
Yes.
To decide to disclose. Okay, welcome back from the rooms, everybody. So I think Karin is going to invite people to share. Be aware, we are recording, so share judiciously. Go ahead, Karin.
Yes, welcome back, welcome back. And some people I saw smiling and laughing. Maybe you heard some funny stuff. And Moira, yes, please.
So this is, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, this is probably nothing new for all of you, but storytelling definitely is a contagious disease because one of the three of us started to telling a lovely story about an experience from her school time. Then the other one got reminded too, and I finished with another story about my first school day. So it's wonderful how it jumps from one to the other and sparks new stories. So thanks for this experience.
That sounds great. That sounds great. So I'm very curious. Would you like to share a story with us? You heard or you just remembered what Moira said. You listened to something and then you remembered of your own story. Please share us some stories. Who would like to share it?
Is it a personal or what we heard?
A personal story they just figured out themselves. And just wait, I give you some moments. If you try to share the story.
I'd like to vote for Anki, if I'm pronouncing that right, to tell her story about the sweets.
Well, Anke, please.
Okay. Yeah, it's not a really big story. That's why I thought, not enough. It was just because my parents were very strict with all sweets, no sweets. We wouldn't get anything, and though I was always keen on them, and the most the best I could ever think of would be in school to go to the school bar where you have little sweets you could buy there. And it was like a dream in the night. I was always like keen on it. I was like, oh, never, I will never ever be able. But heaven was open. I found on the street 50 cents. And that was bring me to the best, with biscuits and with a bit of a layer of cream. I loved it. And a little Anke, I could stand up on the queue. And I was like, oh, and I was there in front of the lady, and I told her what I wanted to have. And there was the sweet next to my nose. I got into my bag to get the 50 cents, and I had lost them. I had lost them. They were gone. I could not buy them. And she, from my nose, took it away. And I was like, oh no, I got out of the queue. But then, to cut a long story short, there was a little tip on my shoulder. And a friend of mine, she said, I saw you're so sad. And actually, I got one of these biscuits and she broke it in two parts and she gave me one half. And then she said, oh, this half I got It tastes as if it were a whole one.
That's very, very nice.
Could you
Thank you.
understand?
I think we are with you. Also, I'm with you absolutely. Thank you very much for sharing. Thank you very much for sharing. And June, you smile again. If you listen to that story the first time, what happened to you?
I just could identify with her longing for that and the joy of finding the 50 cents and the despair of losing it. And then out of the blue, somebody helps her find have the chocolate that she's just craving. I just thought it was such a sweet story.
Yes. So it's really a good friendship. That's nice. Who else would like to share the story or invite someone to tell the story? Just be brave and start.
I would like to.
Yes, Clara.
But it's not from my childhood. It doesn't have to be from childhood. Does it
No,
have to
no,
be?
it's an experience, yes.
Okay. When I was about 30, I was in my 30s, I went to Brazil and I met a man and he proposed to me in marriage. And I knew it was beautiful in Brazil. I just felt so well there. It was fantastic. He accompanied me everywhere and I felt very safe, showed me many things. And then afterwards, before I left, he proposed to me. And I said, oh, I can't say yes. I can't say yes. It's impossible. I feel like in a dream. I have to go back. And at that time, I worked in Austria. I have to go back to Austria to get my feet anchored in Europe. And so he said, okay, until the end of the year, you can think about it. And the more it advanced, that was in March, the more it advanced, the time, the more nervous I became. And I thought, well, Brazil is so far. I don't really know him. And if I make a mistake, then it was September. He was supposed to pick me up in September. And he said, oh, I only can come in December. And in September, I met another man. He came to Austria, and I told him what we met, and we went to eat together with friends of mine. And then he said, well, the second day he said to me, I'm very sad that you want to go to Brazil because I wanted to propose to you. I said, what? Again? You are going to propose? I can only say, no, I'm not going to get married. And okay, but at this moment, I had a really incredible picture. I saw like a sword going down. And I knew Brazil, impossible. I'm not going to Brazil. That was it. Then after 3 days, I got a letter from that man because he had to leave the next day. And I got a letter from the man, the other one, the German man, and that he was very serious with his proposal. And I said to him, well, I'll think about it, but I knew I had to do something. And I'm married now since 35 years with him. We lived together for 35. But the thing is, when we married, the man from Brazil came to see our marriage.
Oh,
he came. I told him, of course. Yeah. So that's
he
a
bring
story.
Another? Had he a company, a female company, the man from Brazil?
No, but
No.
A few years later, I heard that he met a much younger woman. He met a woman in her 30s, but he was already 70 or something.
Thank you very much for the love story. If you look to the faces of the ladies, everyone is awake and curious.
Okay. Okay.
Of course, we love stories. Very, very nice.
But that was a very lovely story of what I met, what I lived there. It was very exciting.
True. Now let's go to the last point for today, to integrate fantastic element in biographical stories. We heard some little fantasy or metaphors or pictures today. Maybe you remember I told about the little man in my brain. Yes, sometimes I really think he exists, but it's metaphoric, of course. Clara just told us from a sword which goes down. It's a picture. We use a picture, a metaphor, and I'm often asked, Karin, how much I'm able to lie in a biographical story. And I give the answer of a colleague from me, and she told me, Karin, I'm a liar and I want to become a bigger one. And I always love that because storytellers are allowed to lie if they are on stage, of course. We tell stories. And it's always important to give the context. So if you're in the office and tell a story which is not true, maybe your colleagues get a little bit nervous or weird. Eric, please.
Yeah, I think we all agree that when we do introduce an element of fantasy, we no longer really can call it a fully autobiographical story. It's
Yes.
a story based on and inspired by our experience, but it crosses a line from starting as autobiographical going into fantasy.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Moira, please.
I totally agree. And just the other day, I heard the term autofiction, which I think describes it quite well, what you are suggesting.
Yes. And it's really easily reached, this line, because if I tell about the man in my brain, it starts to get a little bit fictionary. If Clara uses the metaphor sword, we can ask about it. We can talk about it. If it's just a metaphor, if it's I don't know exactly. But the point is, you can do it, but you should do it very precise, and you have to know what you are doing. And then you leave the part, like Eric says, from the autobiographic part to the fiction, like it's based on a biographic story. But if we would like to find new stories, we can take the material. I talk always about material of our life, the characters, the adventures, and make new stories of it. But it's not autobiographic anymore, and that's very important. Is it okay what I say for you, or do you have questions or say, no, Karin, that's not true? Yeah. Eric, yes?
It's fine.
Yes? Okay. But take a moment, and now it starts to become a little bit fun, the funny part. So take or think about your autobiographic story, and now we start to bring some fantasy inside it.
Okay.
That's not so important, this page. We just talked about it. The point is, what happened to your story if you take a little elf or a spell into that story? If Anke takes a little elf into her story of the cookie bazaar, like what happened with it? And the first thing, I gave some examples, fantastic elements. Speaking mirror, a picture, an animal, a character from the fairy tale world, a gnome, a witch, a dragon, a princess. Okay, princess can be true too. Magical moments. Magical moments, it's very interesting. Are they true? A magical moment if you stand on a lake in the mountains and the fog starts to go off, and that's a magical moment. But if you think you hear some bells, or then it goes to the fiction part, and it's very close together. So magic items like a perfume, a ring, grandmother's diary, flying carpet, something like this. What happened with your story? Just 1 second. I come back to you. Fantastic elements, right? It's an invitation. Just write some fantastical elements you remember into the chat. Magic potion, yes. Being able to fly, magic pen. Being able to see the future, the feeling of being watched. Wish granters, a green knight, becoming invisible. That's very interesting because becoming invisible remembers me what I experienced last weekend. I told my daddy, hey daddy, I will come this weekend. Yes, yes, Karin, that's nice. I told my sister, hey, I'm coming this weekend. Yes, it's okay. I told it to my mom, and as I came home, nobody remembers that I will come. So I was invisible to them. And I went a little bit angry, so becoming invisible. A fairy whispering in my ear. Yes, Eric, being able to see the future. Maybe you have a autobiographical story. And then maybe it's just an idea. You have a grandmother and you tell the audience, I'm sure my grandmother was able to see the future. And then you start the story why you think it and why she had it. So you can start with this little tiny fantastic element, make your grandma to a future seeing person. A fairy whispering in my ear. That's so nice, Clara. If you tell your story and you use the picture of the sword, what is it if you take some fairy tales who whispered in your ears, don't marry him, don't marry him? Or even the fairy tales organized it and gave the second man, the power, being so brave and ask you, maybe. Yes, sometimes have the feeling of being led by my nose. Yes, flittering sign in the night, time travel, interesting. I really like fantasy story, but I never add it to a biographical story. For me, it takes away the magic of the real life. Yes, that's so great you tell it, because if you start to put fantasy elements into a biographical story, what happens? It becomes a new story, a strange story, more and more. And you will lose more and more the power of the biographical story, because we told about it in the beginning that the biographical story has a lot of power for the tellers, for the artists, because your body remembers to the emotions. And so we have a lot of power in it. If we start to create more and more a new story, maybe we have a total new one, and that's not our story anymore. that happens exactly, Heike, what you say. And that's the point. It's the effect, what's going on if we start to make a new one. Here, Eric, by the way, a psychological interpretation of being cursed to be an animal is that it represents a stoppage of emotional, psychological mutilation, and development. Yes, also very interesting to take a picture for a psychological effect. Yes, Kirat, please.
So my question is, Karen, when you say the power of the story when it's a biography and when you add it into a fantasy, uh, is there any element, are we introducing an element of objectivity into it where we are distancing ourselves from the emotional uh, upheaval or emotional connection with the story and looking at it slightly from a more magical perspective, or looking at it more objectively, distancing ourselves a little?
Um, Both can happen, I think. If you tell a biographical story, so I made a biographical story of how I got a storyteller, and my grandma is a very important person in that point. And though I have the facts of the biographical part, and then I made a story where I integrated a fairy tale of Mrs. Hulda. It's a German goddess or a northern goddess, what my grandmother always told me the story of it. And I mixed it. But the Mrs. Hulda is so close to my grandma. For me, it's one. So it's the truth. It's the autobiographic of my feeling. So it can be both the fact and the mixture, because as a child, I tell the story as I was a child. And as I was a child, the fairy tale world was as true as the real world. So I can mix it and it becomes very, as in my feelings, autobiographic, not in the fact, of course. Is it understandable?
Yes. So, yeah. And also, I agree with what Eric has written over here, that fantasy can be escapism or it can be getting to the heart of the matter in metaphorical terms. Uh, Eric, would you want to just probably just, elaborate on this a little? Would that be okay?
Fantasy has a bad name with some people because they say it's just magical thinking and it's escapism, but it's not necessarily. It can really be representing a deep reality in metaphorical terms. So we have to take it on a case-by-case basis.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Eric.
Very interesting questions and discussions. And I just make a little experience. Anke, maybe you shared your story with the biscuits, and I know you're a storyteller. And what happened if we integrate a little fairy tale into your story? Maybe the fairy tale shows you the 50 cent or whispers in your ear. Would you be, or is it possible for you to tell the story with a fairy tale, or should I do it, or would you try it?
Yes, I can try. It's not my friend knocking on my shoulder, but it's a fairy that helped me find this. Or did I understand correctly?
So it's just, the question is, what happened to your story if you integrate a fairy tale in it? A fairy, not a fairy tale, a fairy.
A fairy. Okay. Shall I start the story from the beginning or the last?
Yes, if you want, we can work together. Maybe you go to the street.
I love sweets, but my parents were very strict. No sweets at all, and we didn't have the money to buy them. But one day, one special day, there could be always I could imagine there was a wind going, and I could it was like I felt like a little as if when there was a little wind, I felt them, and I followed them. It was so something promising in it, and I felt very strange and but very light at the same time, and I went with it. And when it was gone, I just looked down on the street, and there were a little piece of money. It was 50 cents, but it was for me like $1,000 at one time, because this was the money to get sweets, the one sweet I love. But I didn't know how, and I felt a bit fancy in my hat, and it felt as if there was something good around me, helping me to get one of my hottest wishes that come true.
Thank you very much. You choose the metaphor of wind was coming into your, and he take you with you and give the solution, because you had so nice words. It's a kind of, it takes you with you, and you decided to go with this little wind.
Yeah.
You choose the wind, and that's also metaphoric, and it's not really true. But you know, as art, I always tell, as art, you can use it and make it much more fantasy. Or you can say, I didn't got the sweets, and my family was so strict. But one day, you won't believe it, there was a little fairy tale on my shoulder, and she whispered, "Look down to the earth, look down to the earth." And I looked down, and there was a little coin, maybe. So you can play with the material of fantastic elements and try what happened to your story as an experiment. What happened to my story if I mix it up? If I just mix it up and it has a new style, a fantasy. So you have an autobiographical story and you mix it up with fairy tales, with fantastic elements, and a new style of story will grow in your hand, in your pencil. It's just a little glance in this work, but you know, the world of fantasy stories will open now. And then you can integrate the characters of your life, what you met, the teacher, the grandma, or the garden of your auntie. You can just use it as material for your stories. But it's not autobiographic anymore. That's true. Do we have questions to that point, or to
What
the...
about, yeah, sorry.
Please,
What
Clara.
about dreams? What about a dream? That's very metaphorical, I think, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And how it influences us. You have a dream, a very weird one,
Yeah.
and it influences you to the whole day. And maybe in the the third day, you see exactly the same person in a supermarket. And you, whoa, what's going on?
Yes.
Yes,
But it could also go over months.
absolutely.
Maybe if it's a real dream, you know, it just, maybe one doesn't understand it. That's what happened to me. Before I met my husband, I had this dream, and I didn't know, because I saw this man, who is my husband now, but I thought it might be the Brazilian one.
Yes.
And that's why I was so confused. But when I met my husband, my real husband, I understood my dream suddenly, and that was 6 months later.
That's very interesting. Very interesting. Yes.
There's a name for that, of dreaming something and then it happens. It's called synchronicity.
Oh, yes, that's synchronicity.
Very
Thank
common
you.
with some people. Some people have it, some people don't.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think we come to the end. Do we have some questions till now to the workshop? Not.
Well, we all have a lot to think about, Karin, and we thank you very much. And your email ID, like all of the presenters, your email ID is on one of the web pages, so people can follow up with you. Yeah, thank you very, very much.
It was nice to be with you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'm going to stop recording.